Okay, we waste enough time. Let's get into it, okay? So, you're Adele. I see. And you bought some Blackpink NX. How's that working out for you? Oh, hello? Did the mic give out?
Hello?
Hello?
Oh,
Oh, is there push to talk or something?
yeah, I'm just gonna go back to voice activity. I was saying I like the title and the damage skin. The outfit's kind of ugly though,
Mm-hmm.
but so fuck it.
Worth the money?
So a lot of people know.
Yeah.
Probably not actually, but eh.
Once in a lifetime crossover, you know?
Yeah, and this is coming from somebody who doesn't even like K-pop.
Damn, they got you good with the pink girly outfit with the black, the contrast, you know?
Yeah.
All right, so
Pink weapon, black outfit, you know.
yeah, exactly. So you're 271. What kind of content are you doing? Like, what kind of state is your account in at this point, and what's the goal, I guess?
Pretty much right now, I am just slowly trying to work my way to 8K Legion.
Mm-hmm.
Doing like 20 levels a day or so, just of Legion mules leveling. Beasthammer made that process a lot. Beasthammer Mule made that process a lot faster.
Yep.
I discovered. Weekly, I pretty much do my like 2 bossing mules and my main. I do hard lucid, hard will. I haven't really moved into C10 yet, but the goal is to do that and then black mage eventually.
Like, what's the strongest like solo, and what's the strongest in a party that you do?
Pretty much. I haven't really focused on bossing content that much, if I'm being honest.
Okay.
So I pretty much just solo up to normal Damien, and then I just look for lucid party, Lu will parties.
Okay. But if you solo normal Damien, then you can join hard, right? For Lotus and Damien? Is that?
Yeah, but I found that the parties are like so much less common than the normal.
Yeah, a lot of people want to solo, right?
Lucid will parties.
Because the pitch are so rare, a lot of people try to go to solo pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Have you ever tried the solo for the harder versions or no?
I did around 268, and I soloed hard Lotus, like basically right after Shining. Right after my games from that, but it took so long that I just stopped bothering.
Right, yeah. Because you're definitely at this stat where that's doable, but it's totally up to you with, you know, how much time it takes and how quick it is. It's up to you if you want to do that on a weekly basis, or you just want to go into, you know, normal and just nuke it and get the crystal and get out.
Yeah, pretty much.
There's definitely arguments for both there. Okay, and then for Lucid and Will, you do hard Lucid, hard Will in a party whenever you can.
Yeah, pretty much. Some weeks I don't do it because I procrastinate until like the last day, and then on the last day, I just can't find a party. So that was definitely the case pre-Shining. I've been trying to do it more, trying to be more accountable on that front post-Shining, but yeah, pre-Shining I didn't really do it that much. I was like 38k stat, so I could have done it, but just wasn't really.
Yeah, you're definitely like a larger part of the damage now, right? That you're representing. So
yeah,
there's definitely also at the point where some people will start trying to, like, you know, do like smaller parties, like 3-man, 4-man parties, that kind of thing.
Yeah, for those twilight marks and whatnot.
Exactly, just shorter loot rotations. Same thing with like Lotus and Damien. With hard Lotus and hard Damien, you could also do something where you like duo with someone, or maybe with someone, you know, that has a support character that just wants to get some Abso stuff on there, for example, that doesn't even need the drops. But there is definitely some layer of, you know, networking there on trying to get people in your buddy list, you know, looking through guild, finding people, you know, because that doesn't come falling from the sky, right?
Yeah.
I guess, do you play pretty irregularly, or do you not have that many hours a week to play? What's the schedule
no,
looking like?
I play every day pretty much, and what I'll do is I will basically, like, I'll grind the Forbearions and Limina for the familiars until I cap on Clovers. Then I'll do some Legion leveling. I'll also do like Misty Island, which takes a while.
Now. Yeah.
And then I'll just do all my other like dailies, my Sacred and my like Tenebris dailies. But by then, I'm pretty much like not really wanting to play the game. So it's like 3 hours a day maybe, but after I'm just not really like interested.
Yeah. So when it comes to those bosses, you're not trying to do those like solo, super long sessions and everything.
Yeah.
Well, when you look into the future, like past where you are now, like how far do you see yourself go? Because you know, there's obviously like Tenebris, Chaos Tenebris, and then Black Mage after that, and all that stuff. Where level-wise, you know, that's something within your range.
I think my goal is to like move into Black. Like I just want to start moving into Black Mage. Like maybe I'm trying to hit 275 like a little bit after Odium comes out. I think. Just from grinding like an hour a day on my main for FAMs. It's like I looked at MapleStory.gg and it's like maybe like 40 at the pace I'm going, maybe like 50 days, 40 days until I hit 275. So
you're doing all the other ones with 4 EXP like Monster Park Extreme and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. The daily and like the Cernium, the grandest dailies, all that.
Yeah, that's a decent amount. That adds up definitely. Okay, yeah, so a little bit over a month. Okay, so like mid-February at the latest.
Pretty much, yeah.
And then the extra symbol will be some nice extra stat. What's your sacred power at? You have
80, I think.
Oh, 80, yeah. Yeah, that builds up super slowly, right?
Yeah, I'm 4 days off 90, but yeah.
Yeah,
still
events like these are
grind and burnium with damage gear.
Yeah. It's only in the summer event that'll finally the daily amounts will go up 5 extra for Cernium and 5 extra for Hotel. That's another
I thought that
6 months.
I naively thought that after Kalos it'd be like Cernium where you'd get like double the Arcus symbol.
Oh yeah, no. There's nothing like that. Yeah. No speed up, no increase, nothing. Yeah, they're really. That's what happens when you kind of like catch up to the game's content. Is it starts, you know, you engage with the content at the hardest point, and then it gets made easier and easier and easier over time. But by that time, you're already focused on the other harder stuff, so it doesn't even matter that it's made easier, unless for your like second or third character, right? You get to push through it a little bit more easily. Okay, so do you think time-wise, because I will say, like, especially if you're trying to go to Cernium, maybe like, you know, sorry, you're trying to go do like the Tenebris bosses, Chaos Tenebris bosses, and eventually Black Mage, there's definitely an element of like networking involved. So how's your guild and everything, or your buddy list? Do you feel like you have some connections of people who are trying to do the same thing that you are?
My guild is pretty low level on average. We have like 4 270s maybe, so that's probably not really a an avenue that I'd be able to take to move into C10E. But I'm in a Boston Discord. I think I posted my BA in that Discord. They like they form like Lou Will parties and Tenebris parties and all that jazz. I think I posted my BA when I was like 256, and I don't think I've looked at Discord since. So
okay,
I've definitely not really been proactive in finding parties. Like that.
Well, it's really one of those things where people who are proactive in it will definitely find those parties faster, because it also gives you practice faster, and then you know, even through failure, you can still make some connections, and you can, you know, get some experience. So it just always gives you a leg up just to try.
Yeah, I feel like if you're the one initiating over like Smegas and whatnot, people who are not as proactive will block to you. So I don't know. I was just kind of thinking of getting like solidifying my geared familiars before. I've just been kind of like using that as an excuse to like put it off moving in. Right now, my gear's like all over the place. Some's 21, some's like 17, all that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're putting something off, there's a good reason for that. Or there's a reason for that, whether it's a good or bad one. Sometimes it's just fear of failure, right? But you just don't want to like get destroyed in a boss fight. But yeah. I mean, nobody wants that, but it's a reality that we all have to deal with at some point, that you go into a boss fight and you just can't hack it. I mean, if you haven't tried the boss fight, yeah, that's more likely to happen than not.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like, because the
Tenebris bosses, they dropped like the pitch boss stuff, and then on the Black Mage entry stuff, and I'm not really near Black Mage, so, and I already have plenty of those from doing the Tenebris dailies for like the past 4 months or whatever. So I kind of just I'm just focused on other things right now, I guess.
Yeah, in
like
practice
AK
mode,
Legion and
you don't
whatnot.
need the for practice mode you don't need the key either. But yeah, it
Yeah.
mainly comes down from the Vihela kills, but you can get 2 or 3 drops per kill there, so you can make the keys pretty quickly. As long as if you've been doing the dailies, I mean it's a slow process, but at least you've got some. But yeah, I there is a thing where you want to definitely consider, I would say, with how strong your character is. I don't know how good your hands are, but that you're definitely in like that cluster of doing hard lucid, hard Damien, and then normal gloom, normal dark now, like those, just for the crystal income and as well for like the chance of the pitched. If you haven't tried in a while, I would definitely just consider just trying it once just to see if it's really still that long. You know, you've got like the home buff for extra boss damage. You've got a bunch of extra coupons that you can make. We've got the current event buff, right? So there's probably a bunch of extra damage also floating around now that should make those runs pretty doable. I would guess that you could definitely do Hard Lotus and Hard Damien together within half an hour, and that Gloom is probably also doable probably within that same half hour, or maybe just a little bit over, something like that. And if that's a half hour a week, again, it's solely up to you, but I'd say it's valuable practice as well, just to get better maneuvering and not dying to dumb shit and that kind of stuff.
With my character mechanics.
Yeah, and that as well, yeah. Because, you know, everything falling from the sky and stunning you in Gloom, like as annoying as it is. For me, Lotus was very tricky for a long time until I started doing Black Mage practice, and then Hard Lotus was like the easiest thing in the world because you have so much more time to respond to things and there's so much less going on that if Lotus is like the hardest thing you're doing, or like Hard Lotus is like the hardest thing you're doing, it's always going to be like kind of dicey. But if you start going into like Hard Dark now and you're going to try to do like, you know, Hard Gloom and Black Mage, or Chaos Gloom and Black Mage and all that stuff, then going back to Hard Lotus is like, oh, cakewalk. Like there's nothing going on, you know. So sometimes you need to, you know, turn it up to an 11 so that you can have an easier time. But definitely practice also makes perfect on those.
Hard Lotus is kind of like a warm up for those more difficult, more further in the game bosses.
Yeah, and it helps to have that experience under your belt for sure. But yeah, you could also check with your guild, like what other people's plans are. Because, I mean, if you have 4 other people level 270, but they also actually want to push for 275 and they want to start doing Chaos Tenebris soon, then you basically have a full party, right? You just need to find one more. So I don't know how active they are. And they might also be in the same situation as you, where they're kind of like, I don't know if we can do that. But they might need one person to, like, rally the troops, you know?
That might be something to look into.
Yeah. Because you already have connection. You probably have decent guild skills there. I always try to, you know, look from what you already have access to actively rather than to try to look outward, because then, you know, if you do that and then, you know, there's only 3 level 270 pluses, you know, and then the other people are like, well, now we can't make a party, so now we're gonna find another guild too, and then you kind of get like topped off on the guild every time, right? Instead of like trying to, you know, see if there's other people with the same ambitions. But yeah. So what? So you're focusing more on Legion now. So I'm hearing my analysis, I guess, up to this point is that you feel like you want to have very, very solid foundation first because you don't want to waste your time on the bosses, essentially.
Yeah, it's kind of a good summary. Yeah.
Okay.
It's pretty good. One sentence sum up of the conversation so far, I'd say.
Okay, and so you're working on familiars, right? Because you want to get those boss damage lines.
Yeah, I will say every time I go into like 1-7 to grind, I just think of the XP I'm missing out on and Burnium, because basically that's how I spend my entire 260 to 270. I got like 260 at the beginning of Midnight Troop, and basically just grinded Cernium all the way until 270. So I do miss the XP, but I do recognize my familiars. I have like 1 large healing, 1 30% ID, so I do recognize the fact my familiars are pretty ass. So.
Yeah, I mean, they're actually better than mine on my DA, so... I mean, I've got more healing, but I don't even have a large IED and no boss.
Well, I mean, but yeah, you have like 22 arcanes to fucking compensate, or 21 arcanes or whatever.
21 arcanes. Yeah, that does help, yeah. But, I mean, there's still a huge room for improvement there. So yeah, so the question is what time frame is on it, but it doesn't seem like you have any big pressure on it, right? So there's no real push in any short term, so you're okay just playing it by ear and getting there when you get there.
Pretty much.
Okay.
On the familiar situation, though,
Sure.
What would you say that I?
Do you think I need anything specific? Like, obviously, I think I'd need one boss damage fam to round it out. But if I had my 30% IED, my large healing, and like one 20% or 30% boss, do you think it'd be necessary to go beyond that?
It's really all about like personal preference. Especially if you're going to be in like the Tenebris bosses, a lot of that will benefit quite a bit from healing. But if you're doing a full party, like a full 6-man, then you know if everyone has one big healing and the support maybe has 2, that's already a lot of healing there. So I wouldn't equip more than 1 there. But I think in general having 2 large healings is nice for, you know, if you're going to do Versilla eventually in a smaller party, something like that. They're pretty useful for that. 1 IED might not be necessary. We'd have to look through all of the stats of everything you have. But we've got 97 now. That's with what configuration of familiars is that with?
Is with 130% IED, I think. Yeah, that's just with my 130% IED.
And any in the event buff right now?
No.
Okay, so
I've
without
just been
it,
focusing on normal monster damage and EXP for the event buff just to help out those Legion mules.
So without it, you would be at like 95 point. 30% of 5 is 1.5. Yeah, so you just under 96, right? Like 95.8, 95.9, something like that.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
You've got Grave Proclamation and your Noble Summons that lowers your IED. So I think if you could go for 2 bossing fams, that'll be like objectively better. Even if it's like 2 20s or like, you know, 30 and a 20, 35 and a 20, something juicy. Yeah, probably aim for at least like 1 more heal and like try to go for 2 boss. But once you have 1 boss, I would really at that point decide for yourself like, okay, I want to, you know, I don't want to stay in this area forever. I want to go get, you know, explore the world and have EXP and be able to get those levels. That'll totally be fine. So as long as you get 1 boss, it's probably good to kind of like spread your wings again. And then eventually probably want to go towards 2 boss, 2 healing, 1 IED, something like that. That way you can basically make all the connections that are useful, and you've got the large drop rate already, so.
It's like, there was that post on Reddit a few months ago that was like average time needed to farm each fam, or like each type of fam, and I saw that like at the rate that I farm familiars, it was like 52 hours on average for like any boss fam. So I know it's kind of just disheartening.
That's hot, yeah. Provided you go for uniques, I don't know, did it have the value for epics as well?
Yeah. I think it was like, you know, I think that calculation was for uniques. For like a 20 or 30 boss fam. Yeah,
because you do have 20% on epics as well. Which just saw someone open back-to-back ones, and I'm like, at this point, you know, I would kill for that. Because I just have 0 as well. But, yeah, I don't know if there was a calculation for epics that might be worth looking into if you're okay with, like, settling with 20s, right? Because it's way less resource-intensive to just make a whole bunch of epics.
I think the calculation for epic and unique was pretty similar.
Yeah, because you have the epic lines on the uniques, right? So that tends to... You get 30 on epic. Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, but you get 35 or 40 technically on unique, right? What the hell was that? Because you have...
The calculation that this person did was... The time to get a bossing fan from epic or unique was pretty similar.
See the top line, 0.146%. Nice. It's like 0.45% in total. And then small chance for the epic line. Yikes. Okay. Yeah, it's not great. Yeah, well, I mean, if you know the numbers, right, that's an easier decision-making thing. It's definitely a difficult thing to be like, you know, do I forego this thing completely? Like I said, like for my system, because I had like bigger legion, all the other stuff was already in place, and my arcanes, you know, went up because I had the money. I was able to be just like, I'm just gonna focus on the levels, you know, go towards Black Mage, start running that, and then once you start running Black Mage, the whole process slows down anyway because you know, you kind of time gated, yeah. And like at most you'll get up to 280, but even now without totems, I don't even know how feasible that is. That's gonna take a long ass time. So you're more just, you know, in pitch boss waiting room, and at that point it's really like, you know, if you're gonna have a second character or something that you can bring up to the area and also get familiars. But it's gonna stay a boss mule. Then you could siphon familiars off of that one. So that's always an option, right?
Yeah.
Whether you know, depending on your ambitions with that second character, I guess.
All right.
Yeah, it's wish I had a better, I mean, wish I could do more for you there. That's just that system is just kind of shitty, you know.
Answer was fine. It's pretty much what I got was try and get boss jams because I think my IDs, even without my ID familiar, would probably be in a fine place, right? Think about that 96 area.
Yeah. No, it's definitely good. You have some extra hidden as a Adele. Plus, if you're in any kind of party, it's always going to be slightly better than that. So you'll be fine.
Yeah. All right. So.
And even with the hyper stats, right? You probably could even start going towards 11 there to make it even chunkier. So.
Oh yeah, last night I went into the hyperstat optimizer and just like put all my stuff in.
Yeah, it's because no boss fems, right? So boss fems will also open up some hyperstat points to throw out, yeah.
To work on like other things, yeah.
I mean, I guess the second main thing to see like from the stat window is like the interability, right? There's definitely some crazy gains to be made there. The question is really because the 8 drop rate is pretty negligible, right? And the third line as well. So the question is like, how's your income looking with the boss mules now? Do you feel like they are carrying enough of your income that you can move away from the meso obtain or no?
As much as I did riff on the farming of familiars in Limina, I do get like per day, like Captain Clovers, I do get like 500 mil a day from that, and I think like a decent part of that is from the meso obtain line. But I did want to basically what stopped me from trying to get a better inner ability all this time was that I was just trying to like save up towards 2 million honor XP just to like knock it all out in like one event.
Because you could end up fucked if you don't have enough. Yeah. Yeah, that's the question. I think we have two 50% offs coming up, right?
Yeah, so I probably like one of those. I think I've built up enough of like a stock of honor XP to get those desired inner ability lines at this point on my main.
Yeah, main would be to slam like circulators first and see if you even, you know, hit a good unique line, right?
I don't actually know how do like circulators work with inner ability. I actually never learned that.
So the regular ones that you buy, the blue ones, those just randomly reroll all of your lines with a certain like set percentages. So like the top line is always legendary, and then there's a percentage epic chance, percentage rare chance, and a percentage unique chance for the second and third line. Second and third line are exactly the same basically. They have the same rates. But because typically the best, but whatever they roll is always the highest number within the type of line. So for example, for cooldown skip, if you want the unique line cooldown skip, you can have, I believe, anywhere from 6% all the way to 10% on unique, I believe, and those have like their own percentages of prevalence within rolling that line. So there's like an additional layer of RNG. But if you roll with a circulator, it's always going to be the highest possible line for that type of line in that rarity. So if you had a unique cooldown skip, it's always going to be 10% with a circulator. But if you roll it manually, it could go as low as 6 or 5 or something. Okay. So, and because the highest unique is typically pretty close to a legendary line, typically you want to roll circulators first to hit one of those really good lines, typically one that your character fully depends on. So if you're an explorer mage, you always try to hit that 38% buff duration, for example, right, for your infinity. As a Adele, you have a few options, but typically people want the cooldown skip. But you could also say like, oh, I hit 10% boss, you know, and then I'll just try to go for cooldown skip on the top line, because that's relatively close. If you're, you know, limited on your amount of honor EXP, you might want to not go as crazy. I think what did I end up with? I think I ended up with boss damage top and then cooldown skip and then crit, I think. So if you have like a bigger legion, your crit won't be as important. If you're a newer character, it might be more important, right? I think I have it here. Also go 20 boss, legendary, in that case, cooldown skip unique. Yeah, exactly. So like if you hit circulators first, you know, there's like 3 outs that you could try to hit, right? You could hit 20% crit, 10% boss, 10% cooldown skip. Some people even maybe settle for this one, like the 8% damage to debuff. That's only 2% damage. That's now a difference from boss, right? So these are all pretty good unique lines to hit. And if you hit any of them, then you lock that one and then roll your top line to try to get whatever one you didn't get. So if you, let's say you hit 20 crit, and that gives you a lot of options. Usually the 20 crit rate is to make sure that you can move completely out of crit rate in your link skills, right? So you basically get a free extra link skill that you can use, and then that'll translate to extra damage. If you hit that one, then you can lock that one, roll the top line, and go either cooldown skip or boss, whatever you hit. And then if you have leftover, you can lock those two and then roll for whatever you don't have on the last line. If you have this one, you would use it as the equivalent of boss. If you really don't need crit, you can also avoid that and go for these two, for example. But
debuffed and whatnot, or in there, debuffed and boss.
Yeah, because you always will have the boss debuffed, right? So this is basically 8% boss damage, and this is 10% boss damage. So those are really close together. Especially if this ends up being like your third line, because then you're rolling manually, and then there's a good chance that even if you hit boss, it's only like 7 or 8% boss. So if you hit like 7% damage to debuff, that's going to be very close to whatever you could hit as boss. But I think it's mainly about the cooldown skip though. Either 10% or 20% cooldown skip is like one of the main things you're looking for as an Adele. So yeah, for circulators, usually I tell people to just set a budget for circulators. Because if there's an event, I don't want you to like go baroque on circulators unless there's nothing else you can really upgrade, right? But typically there's always a bunch of stuff you want to be working on. So I'll tell people like, you know, spend like, I don't know, 5 bill on circulators, 10 bill, like just set a budget for yourself. And if you don't hit it in that money, then it's just like, cool, you know, today was not the day. We'll try another time. Live to fight another day kind of thing.
From actually. Cash out?
Yeah, cash up, yeah.
Okay. And do you think the event circulators are worth it at all?
So if you do your inner ability, quote unquote, the right way, then those circulators are always kind of, if you do your inner ability the correct way, the cheap way, then the chaos circulators are basically always a waste. The black circulators can be useful, basically just to perfect that third line that probably wasn't full. Because what you're going to end up with, hopefully, is best in slot unique secondary line, best in slot prime line, hopefully as close as possible to highest possible number, and then a third line that's kind of like hopefully does something, you know, that's like your inner ability that you're looking for. And then you can use chaos circulators to no, so I would never use chaos circulators because you don't get to choose to keep your previous roll. It'll always give you a new roll. So chaos circulator will take your existing lines and their existing rarities, but it'll jumble up the numbers randomly. So there's a very good chance that you then mess up that very first roll that you did with the miracle circulators, right? So I would never use those at that point once you've gone through the quote-unquote proper channels. But you can use the black circulator because the black circulator does the same as the chaos, but you can choose your previous roll if it ends up lowering the numbers. So that's kind of like a Hail Mary to, you know, say that you hit like 10% cooldown skip and you hit like, you know, 18 boss and you hit 6% boss damage, or I don't know if it goes that low, 7% boss damage, then you can use one, and if like the cooldown skip goes down to 9 but the boss damage goes up to 20 and the or the, you know, all of the other numbers go up, you can decide like, okay, I'm okay losing 1% here and then maxing the other one, and then eventually hopefully you get a roll where it's all 3 max, for example.
Pretty much just for like when you're fine-tuning your inner ability at the very end.
Yes.
That's
yes.
what black circulators would be for. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, so I wanted to talk about my gear because I think I mentioned it before, but it is all over the place right now.
Okay.
In terms of Star Force and potentials.
Some items went, some items didn't, I see. And then you have your beautiful ring with the double drop rate, which is a little bit of a slap in the face.
I got double drop rate on my ring on the day of Shining Star Force, and I also got like one line of drop, one line of Mesa on my pendant, my Superior Galax pendant. And I said my rationale for just like keeping it was since like they're obviously so rare anyway, and I'm not planning on moving into Black Mage like right now. I just keep them in order to just like have that extra drop rate and whatnot, and just have like that leniency to have more drop rate gear since I have one line of miso on the pendant.
Yep.
In order to be able to like just have that higher drop rate while I'm farming for familiars.
Sure. And what is your so if you would go full drop rate, what's your percentages at that point?
332, I think.
332. So that it is that 10 lines? There's 10 lines, right? You have like one every slot. You have like 9 accessories with drop and a double ring.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then like obviously the large familiar.
Yeah. You use the Legion coupon, Holy Symbol, and then a little bit from the inner ability, like the 8%. Yeah. Okay.
But then it does go down to like 312% because I do use the pendant of the spear when I get it from the dailies, but that obviously doesn't last forever. So.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So you done the 9 lines, 180. Yeah, that's so good. Yeah. Okay. And you got the greed. Yeah. Eventually, of course, you want to get those guys in there. It's a little bit unfortunate, those rolls. I mean, they're just too high, right? 20 and 21, like they're just too good to keep up as drop gear, and you just have to roll over it, as bad as that sounds.
Yeah.
It's up to you whether you feel like those are numbers that you want/need, or that you've built your set around. In that case, you want to roll something else to like similar stats before you move over. The thing is, if you really start rolling for 27s and 30s on all your accessories, which is still relatively cheap and relatively doable because there's not that much variance in accessories, you will hopefully but in most situations you will end up with quite some double lines. Between like all my characters, I've probably rolled about 10 to 12 items or something, all with double lines, all just red cubes, just because I was trying to get stat on things.
I think that was back when I got my Sweetwater pendant. I was just trying to roll for like 2-line stat. I rolled 20% Meso twice before, or 2 line of Meso twice before I got that. So that was also a rip.
Yeah, and it's just the reality of reboot. As much as it sucks, it's just part of par for the course, I guess. It's just part of playing the game. But yeah, when those items are so invested, I guess the question is, you probably want to see if you can tap it at 21 first on a superior, right? Before you would commit to the new potential. Otherwise, you'll have to do that again, potentially, if it fails. So I guess Galax coins, how are you looking on that?
I pretty much use them all during Shining Star Force. I'm up to 450 now, I think.
Okay, yeah, so that's going to be a little bit to freaking gamble that one.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of spares on when it comes to the belt and the earrings, but not so much when it comes to the pendant. I have I don't think I have any Dominator pendant extras.
No doms. Okay, yeah. I mean, yeah, that I would definitely say whenever you can on a daily basis to get that normal arc run in, because it's a slow process. All the drop you can, normal arc, slam it down.
That was also something I was neglecting to do pre Shining Star Force. I didn't really do arc them. I've been doing it daily since, but before Shining Star Force, I have not. I basically did not do it. So I foddered reinforced pendants into my superior in order to get it to 20, and I just ran out of coins, so I just kept it at 20.
That's what. Did you buy a lot of reinforced pendants?
I had like 4, I think.
Yeah, that's one way to do it. Do you have a lot of primals? Probably not either then.
Don't think so.
No, yeah. If you don't do arc much, then that resource is pretty low as well. A good idea, primals is a good resource, especially because if you don't go for meisters at all, there's a lot of pressure on Kana rings, right? Part of the puzzle is done, but you still you want to get a high star Kana treasure, and then you want to get another one into superior into slime, or if you get slime ring backups, but
yeah,
that will require a party for chaos slime, because soloing that is that's an annoying boss to solo. If you think Lotus and Damien hard is is a lot of time invested. The chaos slime is on a whole other level there, but you got the superior done, so that's yeah.
Normal slime is definitely also another boss I've been neglecting to solo. Just because, that one is basically just on me, because I just procrastinate. I think at this point I could do, a 5-minute boss fight or whatever. I've just been procrastinating when it comes to, learning mechanics. I got a slime ring on pretty early on, 240 or something. I think, back in Destiny... I think I got it on the day of Destiny's Shining Star Force, and I don't think I've done it since. Slime since.
Yeah, so you're kind of a victim of doing what you want, and if something is not on the forefront of your mind, you're not really going for it. But what ends up happening is you end up with 17 star and a lot of money and no backups, and then the only option you have is get really good potential, which could be cool, but then if transfer hammering eventually comes down the road, then means that potential is gone again, so that's not ideal.
Wasted,
yeah.
That's why I've only left my slime ring on 20% stat.
Well, the other thing is, since your Golex coins are deep and you want a superior to 21 on your pendant, and then eventually you want to get backups for 22. If possible, you don't want to have to go Kana treasure into superior into guardian, because that could then boom as well potentially again, right, from 20 to 21. So the idea is that if you do those dailies, do those weeklies over a long period of time, hopefully eventually whatever is the luckiest will show itself. And then you can push there first. So if you really were doing all your weeklies and all your dailies, and you have 9 Dominator pendants now, then that gives you a little bit more insight on pushing to superior would make more sense. Where to
spend my
you have more Golex coins.
Where to spend my Golex coins,
And then with having more Golex coins, that would allow you, if you had more kind of treasures, or if you did Arc, had more primals, to make Meister rings and then tap into the superior into the slime, and then having only one slime would have been okay, and then you could have just kept the slime 20 until eventually you get into chaos slime, maybe you get backups, and then once all the other projects are done, then you can end up tapping slime 20 to 21 when you have 3 or 4 of those, right? So you'll never get unlucky on all of the drops, but you'll always get lucky on some and unlucky on some, and by exposing your dailies and weeklies and the time that you play to more chances of getting lucky, some of the items are just gonna show themselves as this is where you need to push. Like you said, backups with the belt and the earring. If you have that, then you don't have to worry about foddering and everything, because if you have 6 belts, you can just tap on the belt, right, and see if one goes, and probably one will go before you run out of belts, and that ends up saving you a lot of money in the long run.
And then as I've said ad nauseum now, my Star Force is all over the place. Do you think that I should focus? Where do you think I should put my efforts in Star Force? I was thinking of getting the first thing would be getting the arcanes to 19, and then from there maybe saving until the next shining and working on 22 CRA and whatnot. Or maybe just maybe that's just the wrong priority in general, and maybe I should try to hunt for 27 to 30 stat on my gear, since some of it's, or a decent chunk of it's 21 stat right now. I don't really know where to focus my mesos on in that when it comes to that.
Yeah, so I mean, you have 3 major things, right? You got Star Force, potential, and flaming. So if I look at flames, main thing I'm gonna look at first is it your weapon? It's a tier 6 with 10% boss. So at this point, that's definitely in a good spot. Not to worry about that. Emblem, you've got something even on the 3rd line, and the potential on the weapon as well. It's 2 lines and a useful 3rd. Same thing with the secondary. Again, with the secondary, the IED there might not be necessary eventually. So that's something to keep in mind. Plus, the main line is only quote-unquote 35 and not a 40. So that probably has the biggest room for improvement. but because of the state it's in, it's probably one of those things where I would just get like a secondary on the side to throw like all my Meister cubes onto and see if that hits anything great, basically. Fairy Heart is already where you want it, so those are all nice. The Arcane stuff is staying with you, but it's also, yeah, it's all of these pieces are like annoying as hell to roll 27 or higher, and it's pretty expensive. So on these pieces, and like the flames are 6, 9, 36, 9, 3, 12, yeah, they're all like around 125, right? 123, 127, 124, so something like that. So that's good, like entry level flames. Eventually you want a little bit higher, but the flames are fine here for now. So I'm definitely looking at the Star Force. Rather than like saying I'm gonna work on Star Force on Arcanes, I would mainly just hold on to weapons, and if you get a box, then I would try, because boxes are just great because they're universal backups. So you can try to get them to like 18 one at a time. If anything booms, you open that in the box, replace it, you're done. But there is a chance that just nothing booms and you get everything to 19 and you just have a box backup. And then you can just pick whatever you want from the box. Anywhere from 0 to 8 stars possible, right, on every box that you get. It's a bit more expensive to do it off event like that, but you know, the boxes are limited to only a week. But if if you end up picking a secondary and then you wait for the event and then maybe that item goes to 19, well, now you're stuck with that and now you can't do any of the other items, right? So if you make enough money to I don't know what your income is like. Is it like, if I say around 10 bill a week, does that sound really high? Does it sound about right?
Probably high.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know your boss meals are.
I think I figure I basically it's like piggy banks. If I probably about 2, maybe like 3 bill total from my main plus boss meals, and then like 500 mil a day from farming. Probably about like 6.5.
You do like Ursus and
oh yeah. Ursus. Oh, and then I added extra bill from Maple Tour.
Yeah. Maple Tour. Ursus.
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So a little high, but not totally out of it, right? Because if you have to start buying backups for Arcanes, it just starts getting very expensive, and you kind of want to save it. Well, you don't even have the resources to do so, right? Like you can't afford the backups. So it's really a matter of just having money ready and be like, okay, you know, if there is a box, I want to be able to push it within that week. So keeping a buffer of like 20 to 30 bill probably, right? Just to be safe. And then beyond that, if I look at the rest of your stuff, it probably would be working on potentials, yeah. Because like you said, if you were like, okay, there's actually a 5, 10, 15 in like 3 weeks and I have like all of these backups, then I would say hold and work on Star Force, right? But if you're, you know, low on Gollix coins, I don't know how you are with Kana treasure rings, but you have no Meister rings,
0.
no Dominators, yeah. Then there's just no point to really push in Star Force at all right now. It's more a thing of like, okay, am I willing to put time right now and start putting more time into what is quote unquote required to get those backups? Do I want to move in that direction? Then you're going to have to make sure, you know, normal arc every day. Definitely those weeklies done. Definitely try to do normal slime weekly and start working towards looking at like, hey, who wants to do party with me? Who wants to do these bosses with me? You know, forming like a 4-man Chaos Slime party, for example, where you just like rotate loot, or doing normal at least every week. If you can't find a party that week, it should be a pretty fast run. It should be like a 4 or 5 minute run at the most.
Yeah.
I think or maybe even like a 2 or 3 minute run, because you know Adele super strong. Probably.
Yeah.
You should be at the point now where you can kill it before the test starts. But it depends. What I usually do is I start with slime, so I go there, pop all my guild skills, everything. Well, sometimes I do culvert first. Like I put everything like full damage, right?
Yeah.
Then do my culvert run, wait for my cooldowns to come back, pop my guild skills, go into slime, and then switch into drop rate gear, put on the use like a half-hour coupon, and then I do all my other weekly bosses after that. Just start in the list and just start from the top and work my way down, and then basically just blow everything up inside those half-hour coupons. And then, you know, you just get everything done in one sitting. You do it with, you get the value from your coupon, and there's nothing more than you can do, right?
Yeah.
Or you start with Princess No. I start with whatever boss takes the longest, so that you don't waste the time on the coupon for that one boss, basically. And then if I want to do Hard Lotus, Hard Damien, I just keep those separate, and then, you know, AFK throughout the day somewhere or overnight to get your guild skills back, and do that on another day, basically.
Okay.
Because there's still definitely some gains to make on potentials, but then of course you want to look at which potentials am I going to keep in the long term. So for slime, it's a little bit up in the air. So like, you know, is it going to be a slow process? Do you have like a ton of other projects you're working on and hundreds of billions that are needing to be spent in other places before you return to the Angel Ring? In that case, you could say, I'm going to work on the potential, because then maybe by the time you have the money, you might have more backups, and then you can tap on the ring itself, right? And then you don't have to roll over it, which might be slightly more the case since you did opt to go for the reinforced pendants, because that means that you're going to be a while. You just heavily time gated there. And even though slime, even if you're doing normal, the drop rate from normal is supposed to be horrible, but I've been getting a decent amount of slime rings from normal just running it every week.
Yeah, I think if I run it every week, if I turn it into like a long-term project, getting that to like 21 or 22, maybe by like next Shining Star Force. If I'm doing it every week, like 40% drop, I think that's I could build up maybe like a decent stockpile of rings, just from doing normal.
Yeah,
every week.
There's of course
like
a few people
Savior
who like never getting one. Yeah, Savior should have another one. So it'll probably be July or something, June or July. But if you're trying to build a stockpile of rings, I would definitely say the goal is to find a Chaos party and just, you know, maybe like 3-man, 2-man Chaos, and maybe by then, right? If you got like 19 Arcanes and a few other potentials fixed, you know, more Sacred Power, all that stuff, you're going to be gravitating towards like 46, 47, closer to 50k stat. You know, Oz rings, that's also like looming over your head, right? I don't know if you've tried that content already, or
I think I did it once. I ran Oz once at 250. But then just like I just didn't really want to commit to like the 2-hour a day commitment or whatever to try and get a Ring of Restraint, even though I know how much it can boost.
Yeah, Weapon Jump, Ring of Restraint will be huge for you, especially because they're 3-minute rings, so they perfectly synchronize with all your bursts as well. And they really help with those like single burst things, like on a slime ring on like a Chaos Slime party or something. They'll be amazing. Even if it's a row 4, row 4, but even if it's a row 3 or even a Weapon Jump 3 or Weapon Jump 4, like you've got quite a lot of outs that would help you quite a bit.
So maybe instead of like, maybe after I hit 8K Legion or whatever, or even before then, that could be like time that I dedicate towards Oz rather. And same with like after Misty Islands, then that could also be time I dedicate towards Oz, I think.
Yeah, Oz is definitely great content when there's not really any kind of training or special content stuff out. Sometimes there's like a little bit of a dead period in between when there's nothing else really to do. And then your time will be very valuable towards Oz and not so valuable towards anything else. So then I would say the opportunity cost comes up there.
Okay.
I guess that's rings. Yeah, the other accessories are pretty good. But yeah, even something like 27 on like you have it on the belt, but like on the Sweetwater pendant, that should be decently doable. So once you've got that buffer of mezzos for, you know, once you get an arcane box, I would definitely start working on the potential specifically for the accessories to try to get them all up. Except for the tattoo, of course, you know, you want to definitely just hold off for Twilight Mark, and then depending on what kind of setup you have at that point for a party, you know, no matter how many pieces you have, I decided I wanted to go for 19 first on one to see if it hit 19, and then once it hit 19, I would invest into it, and then I'll just, you know, over time get some backups, so then eventually maybe get a 21. But like a 19 would be good enough for me to switch over, and also a set bonus, you know, to tick those boxes basically.
Are you talking about Twilight Mark there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because the tattoo is like at 18 now, which is understandable that it's lower. So you don't want to invest into this. So yeah, with your current setup, you don't have any Twilight Marks now, or have you boomed any?
No. I've not gotten one yet.
But yeah, because you don't have the static party, right? So I think a lot of it comes down from finding maybe either you find like one day a week where you can make the time to do it, and just starting it. If it's something you're not looking forward to, usually I advise to just do it as early in the day as possible, just to get it out of the way. and then you still have all the fun stuff to do after that. 'Cause if you wait until like last moment, then it's like,
Yeah.
it's easier to, and then, you know, it's the last, and then suddenly it's Wednesday, and then you have to, and then there's like extra pressure, and then you can start like, you know, tilting on bosses, and that never helps. So I would,
Yeah, or
you know,
like having to wait for G skill cooldowns if you fail.
yeah, that's the worst. Yeah, make sure you, and then I have the checklist, right? Exclamation mark checklist. Like, make sure you have your Legion set, you know, your buff freezer set, all of that. It's annoying,
Yep.
you know, but it's even more annoying if you forget one thing, and then, you know, you die once to something dumb on slime, and then you see that the box for the buff freezer thing can't be ticked, and you're like, well, there goes my day, you know, ruined. So yeah.
So just to summarize that, you think building up a buffer of mesos just to start working on, just like get all the arcane gear up to 18, then to 19 once I get a box, and then after that fixing potentials is like the way to go?
Yeah, I think the main overarching thing in general is make sure that you understand like the amount of work that's going to go into where you're going, right? And if you understand that and you want to commit to that, make sure that you check with your guild where everyone's at, maybe help with recruiting, or look for another guild if that's just not, you know, if that doesn't mesh with that, just to be like in an environment where you can also be nurtured to do that and have like connections to start doing that. Not necessarily like, you know, that you can just jump into a bunch of parties, but that you have more people to pick from to do that stuff with, or be a little bit more active in that Discord that you're in, you know, like just some connection with stuff there. And then usually that gets the ball rolling, because you get more energy as well from people around you who want to do the same thing, you know. And once you're like in static parties and you find more time here and there, maybe do a static party, you do like you do the bosses, maybe they're really fast, you've got like 5 minutes of guild skills left, you'd be like, oh, I could use those 5 minutes of guild skills to go do slime real quick, you know. And then you like blow up slime, or they're like, oh shit, we still have guild skills, do you want to try like chaos slime? And then maybe you kill it, and then you'd be like, oh shit, we can actually do the 3 bosses maybe in half an hour, you know. That's usually how parties tend to like experiment with those bosses and see what they're actually capable of. And in the same way, you know, Chaos Tenebris can also be a thing where like everyone's grouping up, you're doing Ferris Hilla, and it's like, oh, we still have guild skills, we wanted to go try Gloom, we want to try Sea Gloom. At that point there's also no pressure, you know, because everyone's gonna just die, and that's okay, you know. But you learn to,
you've already done the stuff required.
yeah, exactly.
Or that, that was your goal for that part.
Yeah, and then you don't want to waste the guild skills, so it's a good place to put him to work there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, eventually you circle back to the potentials on the arcanes, but I'm more of a like waiting for a cube sale kind of guy for that stuff, because you really might need a lot of cubes, and that's kind of the same point where you want to think about maybe making another secondary, right? Seeing if you can just roll that on the side so you don't have to worry about black cubes or possibly getting like a really shitty potential. And yeah, that basically gets you to like 19 armors, 2.5 line, hopefully everything, and then 21 everything else. So the main thing is going to be like, where do you need like the most backups, right? So it seems like rings. If you get an Oz ring, that's cool, because that takes like one of the rings that you might need backups for completely out of the running. So it could mean that if you just repot the kind of treasure ring, eventually get more slimes, get an Oz ring, use your superior, that you don't have to put as much pressure on the reinforced either, right? And that takes pressure off your Gollex coins, which means you can dedicate them more to the superior.
Okay.
And then eventually, once that's finished, then you can always go back to the reinforced, because it'll be slightly better than the Kana treasure, but then you can also just straight up try to go for 22. And if it doesn't go, then you just keep the Kana treasure. If it does go, then you use it instead of Kana treasure. That kind of stuff.
Well, are Oz rings something that you keep on like for the entire time, or do you switch out like after you use the skill? Because I'm not really familiar with like how the mechanics of that work.
Yeah, so you got a
Like,
3-minute cooldown and a pretty short duration. So ideally, if you want to like optimize your damage, you would switch out to a damage ring. Sometimes people switch out to another Oz ring if they have another one. So like Roar and Weapon Jump are the most commonly used. And but of course you have to be like, you know, kind of out of combat and not be doing anything. So in a lot of boss fights it can be pretty annoying. You can switch out now, I believe, if you get hit, like the hot swap, but just not if you were hitting. So you definitely have to stop attacking for a while to use it. Usually for me, with my ping and how lazy I am and and me being scared to die to other stuff, I just keep the ring on. But that was when I was a 4-minute class as well, so it made more sense. But now that I switched to 2-minute, like on my arc, it would make more sense to go for a second ring, so I would swap between the rings and then use one every 2-minute for the because of the internal cooldown of the rings, basically. So like if you had a roar 4 and a roar 3, they would share cooldowns because they're both roars. But if you have a roar and a weapon jump,
you can switch out a weapon jump.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And then some people go really crazy in dojo, right? They'll get like 14 kind of rings and just keep swapping. There's like critical damage rings, and there's a ring that gives you a bunch of damage as long as you don't get hit by anything. So if you have like long iframes, they can use that as an equivalent. Ring of.
Most people who go for like top dojo rank use every week.
And then there's one like where you can get either your HP or MP really low, and then you have another ring that gives you more damage the lower your HP or MP is, because it like locks it in place. So like the combination of those two rings can give you like an effect that's almost like a roar 3 or roar 4 or something. I haven't even gone that deep into it, but that's the people who are like rank 1 dojo, they're like doing that stuff because that's where a lot of damage is, but you have to put the work in and swap
like
everything in.
Be very min-max with it.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I mean, I guess cup-wise, you can always try to push harder, or like flame a cup on the side if you have some spare flames. But you know, eventually you want the book, but the book drop rate is just so garbage. So.
Yeah, you see, you've gotten like what 5 and 500 tries or whatever.
Yeah.
Or you've seen 5 or whatever.
5 or 4, one of the two. Yeah, it's bad.
Definitely a.
Not a good average.
Definitely is a waiting room. That's for sure.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So yeah. So realistically, the flame will probably go quite a bit higher, or quite a bit like. You know, it's same like with like CRA, right? So like around 105 to 110, something like that, flame score wise. So like your pants are already past that point. Your top is around that point. Yeah, like a little bit like where the hat and the top are, I guess. But again, that's just like a spare flame thing on the side. That's something where you have to decide where, you know, is getting like 3 flame score there really worth my flames, or am I going to dedicate my flames more towards bossing mules to make sure that those are more decked out so I can increase my weekly income a bit, right? Because there's probably a bunch of items on boss mules where you could very easily get like 15 to 20 flame score gain on like 10 items, you know, that's like 150 stat that's like there to just pick up. That'll, you know, that might give you accessibility to like Lotus and Damien and stuff like that, just speed up the weekly process a bit more rather than trying to, you know, catch like 3 or 5 stats on a cup. So it's kind of more up to you where you see those opportunities for those kind of resources.
Okay. I know this is gonna be like a hard figure to give, but just bearing all this information in mind, when do you think I should start moving into doing Black Mage? I know there's a lot of factors to consider, but
yeah, I mean there's a BA test, so you basically just put yourself in like your full damage gear, use green pots and like the self 100% buffs like the regular stuff,
and then like look for the how much build per like 75 build per second or whatever.
Yeah, so you want to put it to level 275, and 75 is like bare minimum. Like if everyone in the party has 75, it's still probably going to be pretty rough. So depending on how you're doing, but you do like a full skill rotation, right? So hopefully you see yourself potentially moving towards like the 90 build mark. So like past the 80s into like early 90s. That's when you know you're like really clean. But as soon as you're 75, you can definitely start looking, you know. And if there's other parties where, you know, one person is 100, another person is like around 65, maybe there's a support in there. You could definitely start trying, and then, you know, after like 3 or 4 or 5 attempts, and you start getting the hang of phase 1 and 2, like that's clean, and then it's mainly all about phase 3. As long as you are still working on the progress of the mechanics of the boss, you can't put your damage to use anyway. So your damage is almost not important if you're still getting kicked all the time or dying or dodging for too long, taking too long away from the boss and then going back. It's kind of when you're doing hard lucid in the beginning. Someone calls dragon and everyone jumps to the top right, and then you're standing there for like 10 seconds before the dragon hits, right? But if you learn like, okay, dragon comes, that means I can get like 4, 5, 6 more hits in, and then I go up top. That increases your damage by a lot without changing your gear at all. So a lot of it comes down to like knowing where is it risky, where is it not risky. But as soon as you start going towards like 65 to 70 bill a second, you can definitely see that progress. You know, you got your arcane, your sacred symbols coming in, you know, that kind of stuff. You're going to be min-maxing on some flames. You know, eventually, well, your stat is going to go down a little bit, but eventually, hopefully that double crit damage on the gloves, right? Yeah. Those kind of upgrades. Maybe 3-lining your emblem eventually, right? So there is still damage definitely on the way. So as soon as you see that, I'll definitely start putting my feelers out, because it can take a while to find a black mage, or it can be really quick. You can find like a 4 or 5 man party who's like just looking for someone else to start practicing. And once you have a 5-man black mage, it's typically very easy to find like a last person. But if you're like 2 or 3 people who are looking, you know, sometimes you need to fuse parties, and sometimes you practice like 10 times and you're like, yo, yeah, it's too hard to, you know, we can't do long testing, long practice sessions, or time zone differences, or some people are catching on really quickly, other people aren't catching on as quickly. That happens a lot, you know. There's a lot of ways that parties can fall apart, but at least you'll make some progress, you know.
Yeah, like get more familiar with the mechanics and whatnot.
Yeah, because there's just so much going on, so you just need to ram your head against the wall like at least 5 to 10 times before you're like, oh, okay, so duck on kicks, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, other question. Alright. I don't know if... Oh yeah, I did want to ask. Do you think when it comes to cubing...
Yeah?
And I think for like the 30%, 27% stat, whatnot, do you think it is worth it just to wait for cube sales, or do you think just getting cubes whenever?
Yeah, I would say it depends on how quickly you make money. You're at 10 bill. Yeah, you're like 7.5 bill a week, you said. So that's about 30 bill a month. You know, you're thinking like 6 months ahead for shining, so that's 180 bill. You can easily piss away 180 bill by trying to go for like 22 CRA and everything else, 21 including your arcanes. You know, that's like 180 bill pissed away right there. So maybe depending on how, you know, long it takes to get your current potentials like up to snuff, you could see the next shining as like, that's going to be me potentially finishing all my Star Force. So I want to keep as much money for that, and then after that it's just like free reign for cubing. In general, I think cubing is much more free to do whenever you want than Star Forcing. So what I tend to do is, you know, if I haven't upgraded in a while but I'm sitting on a bunch of money but I don't, you know, want to piss away all my money, I'll tend to like buy, you know, maybe like 5 or 10 bill of cubes just to have like a cubing session, just to feel like I'm still putting my money to work and I'm making some progress without really dedicating like 50 or 100 bill to something, you know. But you want to be a little bit careful, of course, because the further you go, the smaller the amount you spend, the higher the chance that it's all just wasted. So, you know, you can do this on like side projects that are not as risky. So for example, like a secondary on the side, right? See if you just YOLO roll something nice. That way you can kind of keep the gamble monster at bay without, you know, potentially ruining your infrastructure for your character. But I think I'd say in your situation, because you need to get those backups, you could also start seeing like if in 4 to 5 months you still have like very, very low backups and it's just not feasible, you could also just start dumping it more into Star Force, into potentials, and then maybe just do like a regular 5, 10, 15 after that, which is still a really good event to make upgrades, you know. So you can kind of see.
Like 5, 10, 15. If I get like, well, okay. So not talk like, let's say for the next 5, 10, 15 in like February or March or whatever it is. I don't have a box, but I do have like droplets. Do you think it would be worth pushing for 19 arcanes just for a regular 5, 10, 15? I do have backups. I just like keep going to 1 booms and get that one back up to 17.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, it's between that and definitely getting like 2.5 to 3 line on all of your accessories. It would be between those two things, I would say. Yeah.
And do you think it is a good plan just to keep the since I'm not really looking to move into Black Mage, like it's more of a long-term goal. Do you think it's better to keep the drop rate and whatnot on those, even on my like what I want to make damage gear in the future, just to get those like have a higher drop rate while I'm farming for familiar cards?
You're talking specifically about the Arcane Treasure and the Superior, right? Just those two?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, well... It just depends on if you have anything else that you can fill it with. Like if you...
Not really.
Yeah, because you don't have the kind of treasure backups. You don't have any Meisters. Like if you were to do Oz and you get an Oz ring, you know, then using the Oz as the 4th ring instead of the kind of treasure is decently close to re-rolling it and switching out the reinforced, right? It's 3-star difference, but you're getting an Oz ring, and then you can keep it as drop. And that takes a little bit of pressure off of that. But if you're trying to do those harder bosses, maybe consider solos, and you're at the point where like those solos are taking kind of long. Utilizing those equips that you have will definitely put you over the edge, you know, because between the kind of treasure and between the pendant, because I don't think the pendant, yeah, has an int line, so that should be 27 like pretty easily. There's like 54% strength that you're not using.
Yeah, which is a pretty good chunk.
Yeah, that's a huge amount, right? Include another, you know, 7% or so on the pendant, and then hopefully the ring gets another. That'd probably be only another 3%, so that's like a lower priority to roll onto, right? But you're looking at like 60% stat, at least between those 3 items. That's a big chunk. So I probably, especially if you're feeling like that is holding you back, that extra damage for like something like Hard Lotus and Hard Damien, and being able to do those in a reasonable amount of time. Yeah, that's going to ripple through your BA as well, and ripple through feeling like you're making good progress, because it is that is a decent amount lost. But if you feel like you're losing too much there in terms of the familiars and everything, I would definitely look at if you have some other accessories that can fill the slots when it comes to drop rate gear. If you got some old...
I mean, no, yeah, like I do have a I do have like drop rate gear to like where I can get the 5-line drop, 4-line meso. And I guess I'd only be losing like 40% drop pretty much, so it might not be that significant. Like exchanging that for 60% stat might be a trade I do want to make.
Yeah, you have 1, 2, 3. You have 7 pieces. Yeah, you lose like 40. Yeah, or make like 1 extra drop. You get like 1 extra item drop, then you only lose 20 because you're usually using the Spirit Pendant anyway, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it sucks a little bit to have to make like 3 pieces. Have to make like 1 meso, 1 drop, 1. But eventually, if you look at the grand scheme of things, it's like a bill or a bill and a half, right? To like make one of those pieces.
I actually do have like extra pieces in my inventory to where, I do get 9 lines of drop. I can't like, assuming I just like equip all my garbage gear like greed pen and whatnot. I do have like, I can get like 9 lines of drop.
Yeah, then I would just commit to the
like garbage gear.
Yeah, then I would just commit to damage lines on the current stuff, and you could commit to, I would say at least 20, at least 21, but probably up to 24 maybe, or higher if you get lucky on the Superior Pendant, because it's going to take a while, right, before you feel good to tap that. I think even 1 backup might not feel good enough still to tap it.
Yeah, because like even a 7% boom chance, because I just with the booming shit. On the last on the last Shining, I had 1 arcane spare exactly, just from like droplets. I was planning on doing like what we were discussing earlier, just like getting all the gear to 18 and then 19. But then on I tapped my glove and the very first roll just boomed from 17 to 18. So that was kind of unfortunate.
Yep, I was on the same thing. I was gonna go 19 to 21, and I had 1 shoulder backup, and everything else was in droplets. And then the very first tap on the item 19 to 20 was boom, so I immediately had to use my 1 spare. And thankfully I got 3 items up without needing a single spare, and then I needed to make like 5 glove spares or something. Yeah, it was rough at the end.
sure I have that many other questions.
Yeah, I'm looking at your stats. Go for it.
This is just to summarize, pretty much. Try and get 2 bossing fams, another large healing fam. Work on the inner ability during the next like 50% off. Build up a buffer to try, well, like when I get an armor box, try and get the arcanes up to like 19 or so, or 18, 18 and a half. And then other than that, just like work on like the dailies and weeklies, like slime and arcarium, just to build up that bank of backups and not just have like only superior belt and superior belt and earring backups.
Exactly, yeah. And look for people that can motivate you with that, right? Look for external sources. Look for, try within a guild, try within an alliance, try within discords, and try to find other people that can give you that energy to feel like you want to do that. I guess
other than like looking for like lucid will parties, I pretty much treat the game as like a solo game. So it might be time to start moving, especially if I want to move into Black Mage. Probably time to start.
Yeah, exactly. When you're this far in, you need other people, or it's going to take forever to make any kind of progress. That's just the reality at this point. You can't really. I mean, some people do solo the whole way through, and there was a dude who soloed Black Mage like completely. Solo did the whole thing solo, but that's not for everyone. That's not for every player. Yeah.
I did have one final question.
Sure.
I saw that, I think it was Dookie, or Ducky, or however you pronounce his name. He said that you only really need 17 stars on your Arcane Weapon because you're just gonna get a Liberated Weapon eventually. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think you need to push past 17, especially since it's like double the amount of drop list necessary for armor pieces and whatnot?
Oh, for sure. I've only ever gone past 17 on a weapon whenever I got a box and I had like one sitting in my inventory, and even then I would just go for 19 and that's it. On my Arc and my DA, I both went for 21, but that was because I had like 8 backups because of running for a long ass time, and then I wouldn't even safeguard and I would just like send it to hit that 21. But I would never go to 22 on that, definitely not. But I think 17 is fine, but it depends on how quickly you progress. And if you're sitting in the situation where they don't give significant returns, yeah, exactly. I mean, like the stats you gain from a weapon Star Force is the same as from an armor Star Force, but it's like you said, like the backups are twice the cost, right? So it's just way more risky for the same type of gains. It's one of those things where if you have 4 or 5 backups sitting, everything else is already 21. But maybe your party needs some extra damage or pretty min-maxy, then you can. I think 17 and 19 in general is pretty risk-free, but it depends on the situation of your entire account. And just because everything is done when you're starting to liberate, that still means you're 8 months away. So I don't know. I don't think those two stars over 8 months will ever be like a waste. If you have the backups, then you might as well go for it. But going past 19, that's when you really have to wonder. Like, it's probably better investing that money into a side character, into bossing mules, to speed up the health of your account rather than trying to get a little bit min-maxy on one piece of your equipment. Because, up to 15 weapons get way more, right, because of percentage base. But past 15, whether it's a weapon or it's your gloves actually gain more attack, right, than a weapon if you go past 15 stars. So it's a little bit counterintuitive.
Okay.
And then you can go, or I was gonna just
one very final question.
Sure, go for it.
Do you think it's more worth it to work on like just getting that like 3.5 or 2.5 lines of like stat on secondaries rather than focusing on my WSC right now? Or I think my weapons maybe fine. And I know you brought up earlier putting shit into like just your extra cubes into an extra secondary, seeing like if I can get like maybe 2 lines of boss and whatnot, like 1 line of attack.
Yeah, because the IED right now, it's not 100% necessary, but no 3-line attack is pretty much the only ones that would be better than this or higher percentages than this, and that's something I would just like roll off event on the side whenever you're feeling the urge to roll something. You can always just buy like a bill of red cubes and just send.
Gotcha. Okay. And do you think my emblems in a okay place right now.
Yeah, I think emblem and
Like
secondary.
the only alternative really is like 3-line attack.
Yeah, that's
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 very
about
expensive.
like that's about 40 bill off event, 30 bill on event, just for like your because a lot of people want to go for that quickly, and it has that 3-line attack, which is really good. Of course, it's definitely valuable, but I would say that's like on par with like trying to go from 21 to 22 like Star Force wise on your CRA, when all the other stuff is like Arcane's 19, everything else 21. At that point, it might be like emblem time.
Okay. All right. I think that satisfies every question I really had.
Okay. I wanted to check just really quickly with all the with the last of the screenshots that we saw. That you sent, I mean. Because it's a few things. Legion grid setup is fine, right? There's nothing crazy about that. I assume you have that's your second setup, right? So you have another one for your mules, I'm thinking. A little bit more crit rate or so.
I have another one for like mobbing on my main, and a third one for mobbing on my mules. That focuses more on like crit damage and whatnot.
Yeah, and once you get to 8k, you really get to finish everything off. The main thing I would say though, if this is your bossing setup, you want to finish up the critical damage over the boss damage. Just because critical damage is more rare and the percentages is lower, so the rate of return per block is going to be better there as a general priority. But like I said, once you hit 8k, you're going to be maxing out both either way, so it's not the not the end of the world. The thing with your link skills, there's a few there that I would add or like switch out, especially with your current setup. The like the Rin's Blessing and the Bravado, the little bit of IED, definitely have some lower returns than some of the other stuff you could be getting right now. Specifically, the Cadena link skill is a big one, because you're going to be higher level than pretty much everything you're attacking now, and you're always going to have a debuff on the boss, so that's going to be 12% damage that you could get. And that'll help your, especially when you're talking about like your hyperstats, right? And optimizing your hyperstats, it's going to try to get you to put a lot into boss damage and into damage, because there's a bunch of stuff. So, for example, the Cadena link, but also the Arc link, those give you a lot of damage percent, but only when you've stacked them up. And you only do that when you're in combat and jumping around, right? So those are like on-hit effects. So those are going to slightly tweak the balance more in favor of like critical damage, especially in the Legion grid, but also in the hyperstats, because the number is actually higher than what you see if you're just standing still in a town map.
Okay, so do you think it'd be worth it to swap out the zero link skill and the
Hoyong,
the empirical knowledge or whatever for the Arc and the Cadena ones?
I would keep empirical knowledge because it gives you damage and IED, so that the combination makes it better. But I would switch out Bravado and Rin's Blessing, those two, and switch out definitely like the Arc and the Cadena in there. That should definitely be a nice boost between those two, especially if you have the Arc at level 3. But that's the other little bit of min-maxing, right? We're going to 8k, you're probably going to get some more level 3 links, I'm assuming. You're going to get the Demon Slayer up there, yeah. So Demon Slayer is going to be 5% more damage. The Arc will do up to 16% damage, and then the Adele, the Cadena will do 12% damage. So between those three, there'll be 12, 16, and 5, so there'll be 33% damage between those. So that's basically like a line of weapon potential, right?
Very much just planning on getting the Demon Slayer up to basically at the end of the month, like right before Clover's reset. Just buying, cause I think I have like 4,000 Clovers left. I'm just gonna buy out the leveling things.
Yeah, don't wait too long. You got like a few days left to buy it.
Oh yeah. I remember I think the update before Destiny, there was some dude who because we were getting those like level selector coupon, growth potions, whatever, from the battle pass, or maybe it was Destiny. He suggested getting your mules up to like 206, and then getting those 8 growth pots, and then getting using Maple Variety to get your mules up to 206, and then using those growth pots to get your mules up to 210. Yeah,
I was definitely trying to promote that as well. If you're not having fun with those characters, then yeah, you can get those 200 206s very quickly. It's very quick, and then you can just finish them off sharing one of those selector coupons. That's definitely good value for that. If you don't like the characters, right? You're just trying to finish them off. You're not trying to fund them and everything. You're just trying to, get the level 3 link and get out. That's definitely good value, yeah.
Okay, so I think in that case, I think Arc might be my next 210 after after I finish up my Night Lord, which I'm working on.
Yeah,
which is like 180 right now.
And then eventually the AB, right? Slightly.
Yeah.
Slightly
with the AB, I've just been using the Mulung sauna things from the MVP.
Oh, I see. I see.
And like as well as growth bots, or I guess with the AB and the shade. I've just been trying to bonk them and use the stuff because I don't really enjoy playing them.
Get up to 200, yeah. And the daily, the puzzle game now, right, is really good EXP over level 200.
Yeah. It's way more fucking bearable than the previous two we've had.
You didn't like the beach ball? Come on, dude. You don't like bouncing a ball around?
Yeah, it's just so fucking annoying. I hated that.
It's like very repetitive. It's like 3 of those games and
yeah.
then 2 times. It's like, I get it, dude. We're bouncing a ball. It's like,
I don't know. Starbridge was like repetitive, I guess by definition, but at least you could just get in, get out.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. It was really fast. Okay, and then for the Matrix, actually one of the more impactful for your total damage output. I think it's technically ranked 2nd in skill node that you should max for damage output for Adele is actually Weapon Aura. Because of the ID again, but also because of the final damage and because of the extra uptime at higher level. And because you have a you have very good DPM, right? Like because of the swords always and the the Weapon Aura actually improves your damage a lot, not as much for mobbing, but for bossing quite a lot, especially in those longer boss fights. So if you're, running into more EXP nodes and stuff from Clovers, that kind of stuff, I've definitely look into leveling that up.
Okay.
And you're slowly leveling all the other stuff up. That's fine. The Grandest Blessing, of course, is going to be very big for your burst as well. So definitely those 2 will improve your damage quite a bit more past where they are now, because they're just going to increase the damage of all the other stuff that you're already doing.
So you think those 2, Weapon Aura and Grandest Blessing, would be the 2 skills like funnel experience node stones into at this point?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I don't think you have a Urda's Will. Oh, did you die? What happened, dude?
Oh no, I just realized I forgot. I'm just training what my Netler. I realized I was not on 2x.
Oh yeah, I forgot that too. do you have do you know if you have Urda's Will?
I don't think I do.
Because once you start doing Chaos Tenebris and you're gonna want to do Black Mage, you want that, and you want that at a decent level because the cooldown is very high at the low level. So you want to start leveling that if you find it.
Okay.
So definitely hang on to
that.
Yeah,
I think I've gotten Nerd as well in the past, but I didn't really I guess I just didn't recognize the value, so I didn't know that it was a skill you needed for like those bosses. So I was just kind of scrapping all of them.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, I see the all nodes and it's completely empty, so that gives me a little bit of an insight. The other thing is also Blink also gets very useful, and the higher you go, becomes more useful to put in one of the slots that you have available because of the 1 weapon attack per level. So in the leveled up slot, it could give you all the way up to 30 weapon attack from that as well. So I would definitely keep those if you see them. And as you get closer to like doing Black Mage and getting more serious with Chaos Tenebris, you probably want to start trying to get some levels into those 2 as well.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure my Blink skill is just, or I'm pretty sure my 2. I don't even think I have something in my 270 node slot at all.
Okay, yeah,
or
then yeah.
Slot,
so Blink would be some free weapon attack, and so you could put it in a leveled up slot as well potentially over any of the decent skills, right? Because most of them don't really give anything, like Advanced Blessing or Decent Combat Orders. They don't really give anything in a leveled up slot. Like this is just like pretty min-maxy, but like if you put your Rope Lift in a leveled up slot, instead of the Blessing, you would actually gain 5 more stat from that. Whereas with the Blessing, you would just get slightly longer duration, but I'm guessing you're probably auto-buffing, so that doesn't really matter anyway, right?
Yeah.
So if you're like trying to min-max in that way, that would be priority.
Okay.
Yeah, so definitely look for those 2. And then the last thing I saw, for your passive hyper skills, have you looked into that or talked to other Adeles about that before?
No, I think when I made my Adele at like the end of 2021,
Mm-hmm.
I just followed some like guide from 2020,
Mm-hmm.
putting stuff as like what to put into passive hyper skills. I don't think I've touched it since.
Mm-hmm.
So like we're talking like a year now at this point.
Yeah, because I'm not a super expert on every single class. I do have my own Adele at 250, but the way I kind of understand the hyper skills for Adele is that very early on, there's definitely good value in those top three, like those trigger skills. But as you get to the point where your character gets very established and you can kill the things, but you want to get there's the ability to get a lot more utility out of your hyper skills instead. So like with the shield and with the other stuff, with the possibly with the regeneration and with getting more value, it's not as necessary anymore because the storm doesn't consume all your swords anymore, right? So you're not as hungry for the ether anymore.
Yeah.
But I think that's the Ether Bloom cooldown, right? And that one is, I'm pretty sure you always want to get that one because your Ether Bloom is already on a longer cooldown than your Noble Summons, but you want to use the Noble Summons Bloom cooldown as much as possible. So getting the cooldown reduction for the Ether Bloom will definitely help you use that more. And since your ID is already in a good spot, I think typically the trigger guard break gets taken out once your ID is at the point where you are. Because it doesn't, it doesn't work on all the skills.
Yeah.
So since it's not something that universally works, you want to get, you should see a nice damage increase and a much more utility out of your Noble Summons Bloom combo, which will again increase your DPM and your burst. Combine that with slightly optimizing everything and what we talked about, and you should see your damage output go up quite a bit. And I think you'll notice that the bosses like Hard Lotus and Hard Damien will be way more doable with all of those changes.
Okay. On the Matrix front, would you say trying to get? I think I can just craft like one of Blink or Urda's Will. But do you think funneling experience notions into those and getting those at a decent level first, or do you think getting Maximum Weapon or Granted Goddess Blessing would take first priority on that?
Yeah, that would take first priority because they will just be the damage on everything you're already doing and enable more stuff. And the Blink and specifically the Blessing are just more useful in because even in the long boss fights, leveling it up in a long boss fight like in Gloom and stuff might mean that you have like, if it's really long, that you have like 4 uses out of it instead of 3, right? But on something like the Black Mage, that could be the difference between clearing it and not clearing it when there's much more on the line than with something like Gloom or Dark Knell. You could be like, oh, somebody died out, let's try again next time, and then it's just useful to have it at all. Because even on level 1, Blink is very useful. Because, have you ever used Blink?
No.
Because you have your own little float, right? Blink basically is the same thing. Like, it allows you to float for a while, but you can also, like, float in a direction for a little bit. But it has the thing where you, like, don't get knocked back as much. So, like, in Gloom, where you could be blinded and a bunch of stuff could be falling, you could, like, fly up. Or it can make it easier for Hard Lucid to stay up over the dragon, right? If with your Impale Resonance Rush and then with your Self Float and you're still falling, you could also just tap Blink there and you can have even more airtime. So you can stay over the Dragon Breath longer, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So it gives you a little bit more usefulness. And you have the slots for it, so you might as well use it. If you're going to make one of the two, I would make Blink because that'll immediately give you some weapon attack. And then the other one is really only going to come into play on the very high level bosses. So.
Okay.
But yeah, levels in Weapon Aura and Goddess Blessing will increase your burst by quite a bit. If you want to, you could do like a BA now, right? With the Black Mage metrics without doing much yet, and then kind of changing over the stuff that we talked about, and once you get some upgrades, and then just already see what kind of difference that makes. I imagine even on the short term, it's probably pretty quickly at least like a 10% final damage change. I'm guessing, and then it'll only go up with more stuff that comes in.
Just do that right after the session, then just like see how, or like just get the Blink, optimize the Matrix, the Link skills, and get like that 27 or 24% stat on each of the boss damage piece.
Yep.
I just do like a before after, just see
Yep.
how that got affected.
Okay.
That'd be a fun thing to do, I think. Okay.
All right. Or yeah, you can check your Culvert if you've already done it last week and see if that gets better. Culvert is Coverage is an okay metric to see if you made progress, not so much to compare like how good am I going to be at Black Mage or am I better than another person in another class, but for your own benchmark, you can kind of use that as well.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. You have anything else?
I think that's
You're thinking about? You think that's it? All right. Well, then I wish you the best of luck, and hopefully, you know, not too many booms and good potentials will come your way.
Thank you very much.
All right. Well, enjoy the training, and I'll see you around.
Yep, see you around.
All right. Bye. Yes, it was a great call, Discord. Thank you. Okay, cool. Yeah, so thank you for watching that. Hopefully there was one or two things there that you could pick up as well for your own situation that you're in. I see that we did drop some frames, so sorry if there was a little bit of audio stuttering here and there. Sadly, you know, uploading into the Twitch server is not always 100% stable. But yeah, if you have any additional questions or you need any help or you are looking for any of these resources that we were looking at, you can always use my Twitch chat all the way over there. I should just use this end. That's way better. And then you could be one of those sexy people in the chat right now who's waving at you. Look at all those people. And yeah, all of those resources are available for everyone, even when I'm offline. Available through the commands, so feel free to check those out when you want to. Or check out any of the other videos that might show up on your stream, maybe. I don't know if I put an outro with other sessions with other people at other level and other classes. Other than that, thank you for watching. If you like having one of these sessions, you can check the description of the video. If you would like to win one for free, make sure you leave a comment saying that you would like to win with your Discord name. I have not pulled November winners yet, and we're now the end of December, so I guess I'll just pull 4 winners all the way across for the new year to make sure we keep the train going. And yeah, other than that, I guess I'll see you either on the next video or I'll see you live on stream, maybe in the next year. But yeah, hopefully you guys had a great Christmas, and I hope you guys have a great end of the year and start of the good new year if I don't see you in another video until then. Thanks for watching.